Why can't you focus? You sit down to work, and within 5 minutes you're checking your phone. You start a project and abandon it because it's not perfect. You begin learning something new and quit the moment you make a mistake. Your mind jumps from task to task, distracted by the constant noise of not good enough. Here's what nobody tells you. Your distraction isn't caused by lack of willpower. It's caused by perfectionism. You're so afraid of doing things imperfectly that your brain would rather do nothing at all. So it seeks distraction. It finds escape anything to avoid the discomfort of imperfect action. But here's the pattern interrupt. A Japanese philosophy that warriors and artisans have used for centuries to achieve extraordinary focus, not by eliminating imperfection, but by embracing it. It's called wabi-sabi, and it doesn't teach you to be perfect. It teaches you to find beauty in the broken, power in the flawed, and focus on accepting what is. Master this, and distraction loses its grip. Fail to learn it, and you'll spend another decade paralyzed by the fear of imperfect action. Before we dive in, I want to thank every member and supporter of this channel. Your commitment to growth makes this work possible. If this resonates, hit subscribe and drop a comment. What's one thing you haven't started because you're afraid you won't do it perfectly? Now meet Ren. Ren was 29 years old, and his life was a museum of almost. Almost finished his graphic design degree, dropped out in his senior year because his final project wasn't portfolio worthy. Nearly launched a freelance business, built the website and designed the logo, but never went live because the work samples weren't good enough. Yet, almost asked out the woman at the coffee shop, rehearsed the conversation 100 times, but never executed because he couldn't guarantee it would go perfectly. His apartment reflected this paralysis. Half-painted walls. He'd started repainting 3 months ago, made it halfway through the living room, then stopped because he'd made a small mistake with the tape line. Now, the room sat in two-tone limbo. Better to leave it unfinished than to complete it imperfectly. His laptop was worse. 17 folders of unfinished projects. Logos designed but never presented. Illustrations started but were never completed. Every single one abandoned at the 70% mark when he noticed a flaw he couldn't fix. To his impossible standards. This is what perfectionism actually looks like. Not excellence. Paralysis. His day job as a junior designer at a mid-sized agency. Ren was known for 2 things: incredible potential and zero delivery. His initial concepts were always brilliant. His creative direction was solid, but he'd spend weeks obsessing over microscopic details no one else could see. Missing deadlines, frustrating his team. His boss, Sarah, had the conversation with him on a Wednesday afternoon. Ren, your work is good. Sometimes it's great, but you never finish anything on time because you're trying to make it perfect. And perfect doesn't exist. I need someone who can ship good work consistently, not someone who occasionally delivers flawless work 3 weeks late. She paused, her tone softening. You're talented, but talent means nothing if it never leaves your hard drive. Fix this, or I can't keep you on the team. That night, Ren sat in his half-painted living room, scrolling through his phone, watching people create imperfect content that got millions of views while his perfect ideas sat in folders no one would ever see. His best friend, Marku, is called. They'd been close since college, but the friendship had strained recently because Ren kept flaking on plans, not because he didn't want to go, but because he couldn't figure out the perfect thing to say, the ideal outfit to wear, the ideal version of himself to present. Dude, are you avoiding me? Marcus asked, his voice tired. No. You canceled 3 times this month. Each time with some excuse about being busy, or not feeling ready, or whatever. Just tell me the truth. Do you not want to be friends anymore? The question hit like a punch. It's not that, Ren said quietly. I don't know how to explain it. Try. Ren exhaled. I feel like I'm not good enough. Like if I show up as I actually am, stressed, uncertain, not having my shit together, you'll see that I'm a mess. So I keep canceling until I can be the perfect version of myself. But that version never arrives. Silence on the other end. Then, man, I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to be present. You're choosing to be alone rather than risk being imperfect with people who care about you. The call ended. Ren sat in the dark. His relationship had ended 6 months ago for similar reasons. Emma had loved him, but she couldn't handle the constant self-criticism, the way he'd agonize over every text message, every date plan, every conversation. You're so focused on being the perfect boyfriend that you forgot to just be my boyfriend, she'd said. The rock-bottom moment came the next morning. Ren was supposed to present a central campaign concept to a potential client. He'd been preparing for 2 weeks. The work was strong, but at 9 a.m., sitting in the conference room with his team and the client, he looked at his presentation and saw 3 minor flaws: a font choice that wasn't quite right, a color that was slightly off-brand, and a layout that could be 1% better. His mind froze. He couldn't present this. It wasn't perfect. Ren? Sarah prompted. We're ready. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The imperfection screamed in his mind, drowning out everything else. Sarah stepped in to present the work herself. The client loved it, wanted to move forward immediately. After the meeting, Sarah pulled him aside. What just happened? I couldn't do it, Ren whispered. The work wasn't ready, Ren. The work was excellent. The client signed, but you just stood there paralyzed. She looked at him with something between concern and frustration. This isn't about the work anymore. This is something deeper, and you need to figure it out. That night, at 2 a.m., Ren sat on his couch, staring at his half-painted walls, his folders of unfinished projects, and his phone with unanswered messages from friends. I'm not living, he realized. I'm just waiting to be perfect enough to start living. And that day never comes. Friday afternoon, defeated and exhausted, Ren wandered into a small pottery studio near his apartment. He wasn't sure why. Maybe because it was the one creative thing he'd never tried, and therefore couldn't fail at yet. The studio was quiet, peaceful. An older Japanese man, maybe 65, was working at a wheel in the corner. His hands moved with calm precision, shaping clay into a bowl. You here for the beginner class? The man asked, without looking up. Maybe, I don't know. Good answer. The man smiled slightly. Most people who walk in here think they know what they want. Usually, they're wrong. I'm Kenji. Sit. Ren sat at the wheel next to him. Kenji placed a lump of clay in front of him and demonstrated the basic technique: centering, opening, pulling the walls. Now you try. Ren's first attempt collapsed immediately. The clay wobbled off center and folded in on itself. Again, Kenji said. Second attempt, slightly better, but the walls were uneven, and it tipped over. Third attempt, complete disaster. Ren felt the familiar frustration rising. I'm terrible at this. You're a beginner at this, Kenji corrected. That's different. He reached over and picked up Ren's collapsed clay piece. Look at this. See the fingerprints? The way the clay remembers your hands? The way it fell, that fold creates an interesting texture. This failure has character. It's ruined, Ren said. It's imperfect, Kenji replied. In my culture, we have a word for this. Wabi-sabi. He wrote the characters on a piece of paper. Wabi means rustic simplicity, the beauty of imperfection. Sabi means the beauty of age and wear, finding elegance in the natural cycle of growth and decay. Ren stared at the collapsed clay. So, it's about accepting that things are broken? No, Kenji said firmly. It's about understanding that imperfection is the perfection. The crack in the bowl is not a flaw to hide. It's a feature that makes it unique. Your fingerprints in the clay aren't mistakes. They're proof you were present in the making. He handed Ren another ball of clay. In Japan, when a bowl breaks, we sometimes repair it with gold kintsugi. We don't hide the cracks. We highlight them. The repair becomes the most beautiful part, because it tells the story of what survived. Kenji met Ren's eyes. Your life is the same. You're waiting to be perfect before you live. But the living the imperfect, messy, crack living, that's where the beauty is. Ren felt something shift. Can you teach me? He asked. I'm already teaching you, Kenji said. The question is, will you learn? Saturday morning, Ren returned to the studio. Kenji was already working. Today, we practice acceptance, Kenji said, setting up Ren's wheel. You will make 10 bowls. Not good bowls. Not perfect bowls. Just bowls. Whatever happens, happens. You don't restart. You don't throw away mistakes. You complete the form and move to the next. Ren's perfectionist mind screamed in protest. But if I see it's going wrong, you continue anyway, Kenji interrupted. First principle of wabi-sabi, kanso. Simplicity. Not simple as in easy. Simple as in uncluttered by the need for perfection. You remove the mental noise and just do. The first bowl wobbled terribly. Ren's instinct was to crush it and start over. Keep going, Kenji said quietly. Ren forced himself to continue. The bowl emerged lopsided, uneven, asymmetrical. It looked like a child made it. Good, Kenji said. Put it on the shelf. The second bowl was slightly better, but developed a crack halfway up. Continue. By the fourth bowl, Ren realized something strange. The constant judgment in his mind was quieting. Not because he was getting better, he wasn't, really, but because he'd accepted that these bowls were going to be imperfect, and that was okay. The eighth bowl actually turned out decent. Not perfect, but functional and interesting. This one's not bad, Ren said, surprised. Because you stopped trying to make it perfect, Kenji observed. You just made it. The moment you release the need for flawlessness, your hands relaxed. Tension creates rigidity. Acceptance creates flow. That night, Ren applied the same principle to work. He had a personal project, a logo design he'd been perfecting for 8 months. He opened the file, looked at the 17 versions he'd created, and made a decision. Version 12 was good enough. Not perfect. Good enough. He exported it, posted it to his portfolio, hit publish before his brain could stop him. The anxiety was immediate and intense. It wasn't perfect. People would see the flaws. They'd judge him. But then something unexpected happened. Nothing. The world didn't end. 3 people commented, all positive. 1 person reached out about a potential project. Ren sat back, staring at his screen. He'd spent 8 months perfecting something that took 30 seconds to ship. Once he accepted, it was already good. Enough. Kanso, he whispered. Simplicity. Remove the clutter of perfectionism and just do. The next morning, he went back to his apartment's half-painted wall, grabbed the brush, painted the rest of the room in 2 hours. Was it perfect? No. The tape line was slightly crooked in one spot. The second coat was thinner in a corner. But it was done. Complete. And honestly, it looked fine. No one would notice the minor imperfections except him. Kenji's voice echoed, imperfection is the perfection. Week 2 at the pottery studio. Kenji introduced the second principle, fukinsi, he said, showing Ren a beautiful vase with an asymmetrical design. Irregularity. Nature never makes perfect circles or straight lines. Why should we? He explained that wabi-sabi actively embraces asymmetry because it's more natural, more honest, more human. In the West, you worship perfection, straight lines, perfect symmetry, flawless execution. In my tradition, we find that lifeless, the irregular, the asymmetric, the imperfect. This is where life exists. Ren began applying this at work. When Sarah assigned him a new project rebranding a local restaurant, he approached it in a different way. Instead of obsessing over pixel-perfect layouts, he intentionally introduced slight irregularities, hand-drawn elements instead of perfect vectors, organic shapes instead of geometric precision, textures with character instead of flat, lifeless gradients. The work felt more alive, more human. He presented it to Sarah on schedule, not 3 weeks late. On schedule, and though he could see a dozen imperfections he'd normally spend weeks fixing, Sarah looked at it carefully. This is different. More confident somehow. I love it. The client approved it immediately. Week 3. Kenji introduced the third principle, shizen, naturalness, without pretense or force. Like water flowing around a rock, it doesn't fight, it adapts. Ren realized this was his core issue. He'd been forcing perfection instead of allowing natural creation. When you force the clay, Kenji demonstrated, pressing too hard on a bowl, it resists, it collapses. When you work with the clay, accepting its nature, rises. Ren started working with his creative limitations instead of fighting them. Tight deadline? Good. Forces? Simplicity. Limited color palette? Good. Forces creativity. Imperfect execution? Good. Creates character. The resistance in his work began to fade. Not because he was getting perfect, but because he stopped needing to be. Month 2 started strong. Ren was shipping work consistently. His portfolio was growing. Sarah had noticed the change and gave him more responsibility. Then he got the most significant opportunity of his career, a pitch to a major tech company for its rebrand. 6-figure contract, his dream project, and the old patterns came roaring back. This was too important to mess up, too big to be merely good enough. This needed to be perfect. He spent 3 weeks obsessing over the initial concepts, designed 40 different directions and hated all of them. Started over and missed the internal review deadline with Sarah. Ren, she said, concerned. Where are we with the pitch? I'm still refining the concepts. They're not ready. The pitch is in 4 days. I know. I just need everything to be perfect for this one. It's too important. Sarah's expression shifted. You're doing it again. The thing we talked about. The perfectionism paralysis. Ren felt defensive. This is different. This is an actual high-stakes situation. I can't just ship good enough for something this big. Yes, Sarah said firmly. You can, and you have to, but Ren couldn't. The fear was too intense. He worked through the night, changing details that didn't matter, paralyzed by the enormity of the opportunity. The morning of the pitch, he had nothing presentable. The work was scattered across 50 files, each 80% complete, none of them full. Sarah had to cancel the pitch. The company went with another agency. Ren sat in the conference room after everyone left, surrounded by his almost perfect work that amounted to nothing. He went to the pottery studio that evening. Ashamed. I failed, he told Kenji. Everything you taught me. And I fell back into the same trap. Kenji was repairing a cracked bowl with gold lacquer kintsugi. This is where most people quit, Kenji said quietly. They learn wabi-sabi in easy moments, then abandon it when stakes rise. But this is when you need it most. He held up the bowl, gold seams gleaming. The crack happened. Fighting it won't uncrack it. Accepting it, repairing it beautifully, that's wabi-sabi. You fell, now you repair. With gold. Month 5. Ren walked into Sarah's office with something he'd never brought before. Consistent, completed work. Not perfect. Complete. His portfolio had transformed. Instead of 17 unfinished masterpieces, he had 50 shipped projects. Some were excellent. Some were merely good. All was done. His freelance business, dormant for 2 years, had quietly launched. Imperfect website. Imperfect portfolio. But live. Real clients were reaching out. More importantly, something inside him had shifted. He no longer experienced the crushing anxiety before sharing work. The voice that used to scream, "It's not good enough," had quieted to a whisper he could acknowledge and ignore. Marcus noticed it first. They were having coffee, a regular thing again now that Ren showed up as himself instead of waiting to be a perfect version. "You're different," Marcus said. "Less in your head. More present." Ren smiled. "I stopped trying to be flawless. Turns out that makes you more focused, not less." At work, Sarah promoted him to the position of senior designer. "You've become the most reliable person on the team. Not because your work is perfect, no one's is, but because you actually finish things. And your work has more soul now, more humanity." The tech company that he'd failed to pitch, they reached out 6 months later after seeing his recent work. This time, Ren presented good work on time. They signed. His apartment was fully painted now. He'd even hung his imperfect artwork on the walls, pieces he'd finished despite their flaws. The woman from the coffee shop. Her name was Yuki. Ren had approached her with no script, no perfect opener, just a genuine presence. They'd been dating for 2 months. "I used to think confidence meant being perfect," he told her one evening. "Now I know. It means being okay with being imperfect." She smiled. "I wouldn't want you perfect anyway. Perfect is boring. Here's why wabi-sabi works neurologically. Research from Harvard's Department of Psychology reveals that perfectionism activates the brain's threat detection system, the amygdala. When you demand flawlessness, your brain interprets creative work as a threat because failure becomes catastrophic. This triggers a freeze response. That's the paralysis Ren experienced, but acceptance of imperfection deactivates this threat response. Studies from Stanford show that when subjects were told, "Just do your best," mistakes are expected. Their prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for creativity and executive function, showed significantly higher activity. Permission to be imperfect unlocks cognitive capacity. There's also fascinating research from MIT on what they call analysis paralysis. The brain can hold only about 7 variables in working memory at a time. Perfectionism creates an infinite number of variables. Every micro detail becomes critical. This overwhelms the system, causing a shutdown. Wabi-sabi does the opposite. By accepting imperfection as natural, it reduces variables to what actually matters. This creates what psychologists call cognitive ease. The brain can process and execute without overload. UC Berkeley researchers studying creativity found that subjects who embraced productive imperfection generated 43% more creative solutions than those pursuing flawless execution. Why? Because perfectionism creates rigid thinking. Acceptance of flaws creates flexible exploration. There's also neurochemistry at play. Perfectionism keeps you in chronic stress states, elevated cortisol, suppressed dopamine. Every imperfection registers as failure, preventing the reward response that reinforces action. But completion in imperfect completion triggers dopamine release. Dr. Teresa Amabile at Harvard calls this the progress principle. Small wins, even flawed ones, create positive momentum. Ren experienced this when he published his imperfect logo and received positive feedback. That dopamine hit reinforced the behavior. Japanese monks, who have practiced wabi-sabi for centuries, understood this intuitively. Modern neuroscience confirms it. Your brain isn't designed for perfection. It's designed for adaptation, learning, and progress. Perfectionism fights your neurology. Wabi-sabi works with it. The ancient wisdom and modern science converge on the same truth. Imperfection isn't the enemy of excellence. It's the path to it. By month 8. Ren had stopped thinking of wabi-sabi as a technique he practiced. It had become a lens through which he saw everything. At the pottery studio, he was now teaching beginners alongside Kenji, and he watched them struggle with the same perfectionism that had paralyzed him. A young woman named Claire sat at the wheel. Her third attempt collapsed in front of her, tears of frustration in her eyes. "I can't do this," she said. "I keep failing." Ren knelt beside her. "Can I show you something?" He pulled out the very first bowl he'd made, lopsided, uneven, clearly amateur. He'd kept it on his shelf at home. "This was my first one. It's objectively terrible. But you know what? It taught me more than any perfect bowl ever could. The wobble taught me about centering. The collapsed wall taught me about pressure. The cracks taught me about acceptance." He handed her another piece of clay. "The goal isn't to make a perfect bowl. It's to make a bowl, then another, then another. Perfection isn't the point. Presence is." Claire tried again. The bowl was still imperfect, but she finished it, put it on the shelf, smiled. At his design agency, Ren had started applying wabi-sabi principles to team dynamics. When junior designers brought him work seeking approval, he'd point out what was strong first, then frame weaknesses as opportunities for character rather than failures. The team's output increased, not because quality dropped, because paralysis decreased. His relationship with Yuki had deepened through the same philosophy. He'd stopped trying to be the perfect boyfriend, always saying the right thing, planning the flawless date, managing her impression of him. He just showed up as himself, flawed, uncertain sometimes, but present. "I love that you're not trying to impress me anymore," she told him one evening. "You're just here. That's what I actually wanted." The most profound application came with his family. His relationship with his father had been strained for years. His dad was a successful architect, a perfectionist who'd pushed Ren hard growing up, never satisfied with anything less than flawless execution. Ren invited him to the pottery studio. They worked in silence for a while, both making wonky, imperfect bowls. Then his father spoke. I pushed you too hard. I thought I was teaching you excellence. I was teaching you fear. Ren looked at his father's hands, weathered, skilled, but creating something beautifully flawed. It's okay, Dad. I'm learning now that the imperfect stuff, the struggles, the mistakes, the cracks, that's what makes us real. That's what makes us human. His father nodded slowly, tears in his eyes, continuing to shape clay that would never be perfect, but was somehow exactly right. 3 months later, Ren opened his own small studio, part design agency, part creative workshop. The tagline, written in both English and Japanese, perfectly imperfect. Above the door, a Kenji-made bowl with visible gold repairs, beautiful because of its cracks, not despite them. This wasn't just about pottery anymore, or design, or creativity. It was about living. So let me ask you something. What? Are you not starting because you're afraid you won't do it perfectly? That business, that creative project, that conversation, that relationship, that life change you know you need to make. How many more years are you going to wait to be flawless before you begin living? Here's what I learned from Ren's story, and what Wabi Sabi teaches: perfection isn't the goal. Presence is. Completion is. Action is. The crack in the bowl isn't a flaw. It's proof that the bowl exists. Your imperfections aren't failures. They're evidence that you're actually living instead of just planning to live someday. When you're ready, your challenge isn't complicated. Start one thing you've been avoiding because it won't be perfect. Ship it at 80%. Post it. Send it. Say it. Do it. Comment below right now. I will complete specific thing imperfectly by specific date. Make it public. Make it real. Make it imperfect. Remember the 3 principles. Canso, remove the clutter of perfectionism, and just do. Fukinsi, embrace the natural irregularity of real work. Shizen, stop forcing it and let natural creation unfold. You're not trying to become perfect. You're becoming someone who acts despite imperfection. That's the actual transformation. The warrior doesn't wait for the perfect moment to draw his sword. The craftsman doesn't wait for ideal conditions to begin his work. The artist doesn't wait for perfect inspiration to create. They begin imperfectly, and in that imperfect beginning, they find the beauty of being present. Wabi Sabi, the beauty of imperfection. If this resonated, subscribe. Share this with someone paralyzed by perfectionism. I'll see you in the next one. Be present. Walk with honor. Follow the path, perfectly imperfect.